When you saw an opportunity, you built a business around it. And every day since, you've kept a sharp eye on ways to evolve and keep your business thriving. It takes courage, creativity, and a clear perspective. At Bremer Bank, we understand that your business is the result of your hard work and ingenuity, and we're here to support you with solutions when you spot an opportunity to grow. Work with Bremer Bank, because understanding is everything.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, Diversity in Clinical Practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. Today has been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself, and if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on cultural awareness versus cultural ignorance. Now, as another Black History Month draws to a close, I recall the intentional efforts many have taken to bring awareness to the well-known as well as lesser-known achievements of so many African Americans in this country's history. I'm grateful to be continually pleasantly surprised to learn something new each year about people who may not have had a perfect life, but nonetheless made a positive and lasting impact on this country and in many ways the world. And as with all awareness months, for there are many, the goal is for it to be just the beginning of learning that takes place throughout the year, as often as we get the opportunity to do so. And still, as this month draws to a close and another Cultural Appreciation Month begins, I'm also reminded of the efforts many in prominent leadership positions are making to do the very opposite. Through the power that comes from executive orders and all the way down, the efforts that influence and contribute to societal pressures to follow suit, there are intentional efforts to right the perceived wrongs of society. And to them, this means ending this country's preoccupation with minority experiences. Influenced by efforts like this, a well-meaning helping professional who attended one of my recent cultural awareness trainings asked me this. They said, Lambert, isn't it reasonable to want to slow down this country's preoccupation with minorities? You see, these days, it feels like if we don't bend over backwards to make minorities feel like they're the most special cultural group and always talk about what they want to talk about, then we're automatically viewed as bad people. So when the president declared that he was putting an end to divisive DEI programs and depolarizing, prioritizing confusing gender arguments, it seemed like a reasonable and considerate thing to do, because everything else I hear about promotes anger and division. Now, as I mentioned before, I take intentional efforts to welcome any and all questions in my trainings, and you can do the same by submitting the question directly to me on my website that I can answer in a future podcast. But today, I'd like to share with you a few of the considerations that I shared in response to this professional's great question. The first consideration is this: appreciation isn't the same thing as catering. You see, the goal of Cultural Awareness Months, as well as many other diversity, equity, inclusion programs and initiatives out there, is not to swing the pendulum the other way and begin to treat individuals and families in any of the many minority groups in this country as though they're the most special in the whole world or this country, and as though their wants and needs are more important than the others' wants and needs, and as though lack of consideration for their wants and needs is offensive. Instead, these efforts exist because individuals and families and many minority groups have felt the extreme opposite for so long, as though they're the least special people in this country, and as though their wants and needs are less important than others' wants and needs, and as though a lack of consideration for their wants and needs is perfectly acceptable. simply because, well, they're smaller in number and it's inconvenient to those who are in a larger number. The goal is not to turn the good guys into the bad guys and the bad guys into the good guys. Instead, it's to value everyone with the same value that was previously attributed only to some. I would argue that for many, the aversion to this value of everyone is because their value is wrapped up in being the good guy and a good guy, bad guy concept, such that if they are no longer able to see themselves as inherently of greater value than other people, they won't know who they are anymore. Or worse, who they are will be based on their actions, which they inwardly know looks more like the behavior they deemed to be for the bad guys. But again, that's not the goal. The goal is to end this polarizing tendency and to propose a healthier opportunity. That opportunity being to value everyone from all cultural backgrounds and identities. And how you value what you don't know about? Well, you learn about them. You learn about their experiences and the needs and the wants of everyone. There are cultural life experiences with which we are integrally familiar already. We don't need to make intentional efforts to learn about them because we're surrounded by them every day. However, there are many other experiences that are just as valid and worth learning about. But because we aren't surrounded by it naturally, we must make intentional efforts to learn about them. That's all we're talking about. Making intentional efforts to learn about experiences outside of our own. It takes priority efforts to do so because it's not natural and already part of our habitual learning experiences. Hopefully, over time, that which feels new and unnatural will feel normal, no longer making it feel like an unnecessary priority or chore, because learning about others will become just as natural and seen as just as beneficial as learning about ourselves. That is, unless something gets in the way, which leads to consideration number two. Silence doesn't delete reality. What do I mean? Well, executive orders and similar local government or even individual business decisions to end diversity, equity, inclusion programs and job titles specifically intended to bring awareness to needs and experiences of those in a variety of minority groups may be successful in ending those programs and those job titles. But the needs and experiences of those in a variety of minority cultural groups will still remain. The only thing these efforts does is make it easier to play the out of sight, out of mind game in life and put their heads in the sand or plug up their ears and their fingers with their ears and pretend that if they don't have to hear about the needs and experiences of others, then those needs and experiences no longer exist. And with it goes the inconvenient challenge of having to do anything different in consideration of those needs. Now, if this remained a personal decision where individual chose to voluntarily stay in a state of ignorance, believing that what they don't know won't hurt them, then fine, to each their own. However, one of the main problems with this mindset, when proclaimed for all to hear and enforced via leadership positions as the new way of the land, is that it becomes a bigger problem altogether. For it is then when systematic ignorance becomes detrimental to the well being of those whose needs will go unintentionally or in some ways intentionally unmet. And efforts to shed light on those needs and experiences become seen as detrimental to the well being of everyone else, which is where a renewed need then arises. That's where consideration number three comes in. While everyone deserves to be valued, we all benefit when intentional effort is given to those who have been undervalued the most. Over the years, there have been some very creative ways to express the difference between equality and equity. An oversimplification would be to say this: equality is doing the exact same thing for everyone, while equity is doing what each person needs to achieve the same goal. Such that if two people are hungry and a meal to feed each of them costs $10, but one person has $8 and the other person has $4, then equality might look like giving them the both same $2, with one person achieving their meal goal and the other person remaining short and thus hungry. Whereas equity might look like giving the person with $8 $2 and giving the person with $4 $6. The amount given is not based on differing value of the person, but on differing needs to achieve the same hunger need meeting goal. Now, while it may be easy to transition from this into a conversation about finances, government spending, and handouts, I'm only using this conversation to highlight how we give not of our money, but of our time, our hands, our words, and perspectives. Without needing to be a government official and determine who will get access to what assistance programs, you have the opportunity to give someone the gift of care for their well being, even if they don't look like you or come from where you come from. You can give the gift of learning something new about their cultural background or experiences, even though it doesn't benefit you. Well, let me put it like this not only benefits them because of the ways that increased knowledge of about a group has been shown to decrease the amount of hate and negative biases shown toward that group, but it also is beneficial because it expands your perspective on experiences outside of your own, helping you make better decisions in life personally and helping you more effectively meet a greater variety of cultural needs professionally for all those whom you serve. With all this in mind, my hope for you is that you would see the benefits in learning about others as well as yourself, the cultural history and present implications of those who have the same cultural group as you or those who don't, your ancestors as well as others. Again, the goal is not to prioritize some over others, but to recognize that historically it has already felt for many as though they have been on the unjustly devalued side, and there is a longing for balance, not reverse supremacy. Unfortunately, instead of worrying about being put on the one down position by being forced to learn about and value experiences of others, let's change the script. Let's acknowledge that we can learn more about and value the needs and experiences of others alongside of our own needs and experiences. Since you already know a lot about yours, push past the admittedly inconvenient challenge of learning about the experiences of those with whom you don't identify. And at the very least, support the programs and leadership positions designed to help lead us in this effort so that you don't have to do so. Putting our heads in the sand and forbidding talking about racial experiences, gender identities, disability accessibilities, and many other legitimate experiences deemed to be automatically negative and a part of divisive DEI priorities doesn't change the fact that everyone, no matter how similar or different, has needs and experiences that deserve to be heard rather than ignored. And in reality, even executive mandates can't erase the real people on the receiving end of them, hoping, waiting, longing to be heard and valued and seen, just like everybody else. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you have any pressing diversity-related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a shame-free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who could benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic of diversity, then feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well, or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk on what to do when you offend someone. I hope it inspires you and that you share it with someone else so that they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's this North 5 game?
It's a $1 Minnesota-only lotto game.
Wait, what?
Yeah, drawings are daily.
Wait, what?
It also features Easy Match. So for an extra buck, if your Easy Match numbers match any of your draw numbers, you can win instantly.
Wait, what?
Plus, you can still win the big jackpot by matching your North 5 number, so you can win now and win later.
Wait, what?
North 5 with Easy Match. Win now, win later, whenever.